Winners are not luckier than you. They are not smarter than you. They do not have advantages you lack or access you were denied. They are programmed differently. While you are running mental software designed for survival, they are running software designed for dominance. While you are calculating how to avoid loss, they are calculating how to maximize victory. While you are protecting what you have, they are hunting what they want. The psychology of winning is not motivation. It is not positive thinking. It is not waking up early or grinding harder. It is a completely different operating system for processing reality. And in the next 15 minutes, I am going to install it in your head. Pay attention. This changes everything. Before we dive deeper, hit like and subscribe so you never miss our videos, and share this with someone who needs to see it. Here is what separates winners from everyone else. It is not talent. Talent is everywhere. Talented people lose constantly. It is not hard work. Hard workers stay broke and frustrated every single day. It is not even intelligence. Brilliant people fail spectacularly all the time. What separates winners is psychology, the mental architecture that determines how they process information, make decisions, and respond to reality. Most people have loser psychology installed by default, not because they chose it, because it was programmed into them by well-meaning parents, cautious teachers, and a society designed to produce compliant workers, not dominant winners. But here is what nobody tells you about winner psychology. It can be learned. It can be installed. It can replace the default programming that has been running your life into the ground. Every single psychological pattern I am about to share with you was learned by people who now win consistently. They were not born with these patterns. They acquired them, practiced them, became them, which means you can too. Ready to upgrade? Pattern 1, identity. First, processing losers set goals. Winners set identities. This distinction sounds subtle. It is not. It is the difference between temporary change and permanent transformation. When you set a goal, you create a gap between who you are and what you want. That gap generates motivation initially, but it also generates constant friction. You are fighting against your own identity to achieve something external. When you set an identity, you close the gap immediately. You become the person who naturally does what that person does. There is no friction because you are not fighting yourself. You are expressing yourself. Here is how this works in practice. Goal setter says, I want to lose weight. Winner says, I am someone who takes care of their body. Goal setter says, I want to make more money. Winner says, I am someone who creates massive value. Goal setter says, I want to be successful. Winner says, I am a winner. The goal setter has to constantly motivate themselves to act against their identity. The winner just acts naturally according to who they are. But here is the part that changes everything. Identity is not fixed. You can choose it. Right now, you can decide who you are and start acting accordingly. The actions will feel awkward at first because they do not match your old identity. Keep going. Eventually, the new identity becomes real. And when identity shifts, behavior follows automatically. Winners decided to be winners before they had any evidence to support that decision. The decision came first. The results came later. Who are you deciding to be? Pattern 2, selective blindness. Winners do not see obstacles the way you see them. Not because they are delusional, because they have trained selective attention. They literally filter reality differently than people who lose. Most people have threat-focused attention. Their brain is constantly scanning for what could go wrong, what might hurt them, what obstacles stand in their way. This is survival programming. It kept your ancestors alive. It keeps you stuck. Winners have opportunity-focused attention. Their brain scans for openings, advantages, and paths forward. They see the same reality you see, but notice completely different thing. Here is why this matters so much. What you focus on expands in your perception. Focus on obstacles, and obstacles dominate your reality. Focus on opportunities, and opportunities dominate your reality. Same world, different experience, different outcomes. This is not positive thinking. This is attentional training. Winners train their attention the same way athletes train their bodies, deliberately, consistently, until the new pattern becomes automatic. Ready for the tactical application? Every time you notice yourself focusing on why something cannot work, consciously redirect to how it could work. Every time you see an obstacle, force yourself to find the opportunity hidden inside it. Every time your brain says, this is impossible, train it to ask, how might this be possible? This feels unnatural at first. Good. That discomfort is your brain rewiring. Keep going until opportunity focus becomes your default. What would you attempt if you could only see the path forward? If you are serious about installing winner psychology permanently, you need more than awareness. You need a complete system for rewiring how you think, decide, and act. That is exactly why I created the VYBO Wealth Blueprint. It is the comprehensive framework for building the psychology and systems that winners actually use. Inside, you will find the exact mental patterns that separate people who win consistently from everyone else. The decision frameworks that eliminate hesitation. The identity protocols that make success automatic. This is not motivation. This is psychological architecture. No fluff, no theory, without application. Just the blueprint that actually installs winner psychology. Link is in the description. Become who you were meant to be. Pattern 3. Loss tolerance. Winners have a completely different relationship with losing than everyone else. Most people avoid loss at all costs. They would rather not play than risk losing. They would rather stay stuck than fail trying to move forward. They would rather be comfortable and stagnant than uncomfortable and growing. This is loser psychology, and it guarantees losing by preventing any attempt to win. Winners expect to lose. Frequently, they build loss into their calculation. They know that winning requires many attempts, and most attempts fail. So they detach their ego from individual outcomes and attach it to the process of continuous attempt. But here is where this becomes powerful. When you tolerate loss, you can take more shots. More shots means more opportunities to win. More opportunities to win means eventual victory becomes mathematically inevitable. The person who takes 100 shots and makes 10 wins over the person who takes 10 shots and makes 3. Even though their success rate is lower, their total success is higher. Winners understand this math intuitively. They play volume games while losers play avoidance games. Here is the question that reveals your psychology. When was the last time you failed at something because you actually tried? If you cannot remember, you have not been trying enough. You have been protecting yourself from loss so effectively that you have also protected yourself from any possibility of winning. Losers avoid loss. Winners accumulate loss on the path to victory. How many losses are you willing to collect this year? Let me bring this together. 3 patterns down. Identity first processing, where you become before you achieve. Selective blindness, where you train attention toward opportunity. Loss tolerance, where you embrace failure as the price of victory. These 3 patterns alone will transform your result, but we are only halfway there. The next patterns are about execution, how winners actually move through the world differently than everyone else. Pattern 4, commitment over interest. Most people are interested in winning. Winners are committed to winning. The difference is absolute. Interest says, I will try this and see what happens. Commitment says, I will make this work no matter what happens. Interest quits when things get hard. Commitment finds another way when the first way fails. Interest looks for exit ramps. Commitment burns the boats. Here is why. Commitment creates winners. When you are merely interested, your brain is constantly running a calculation. Is this still worth it? Should I keep going or try something else? Is there an easier path? That calculation consumes mental energy and creates hesitation. When you are committed, that calculation stops. The decision is made. There is no exit. All mental energy goes toward finding solutions instead of evaluating whether to continue. Commitment creates clarity. Clarity creates speed. Speed creates advantage. But here is the part most people miss. Commitment is not emotional intensity. It is not wanting something really badly. It is a decision and a choice made once that eliminates all future choices about whether to continue. You do not feel your way into commitment. You decide your way into it. What have you been interested in that you need to commit to? Pattern 5, environment architecture. Winners do not rely on willpower. They design environments that make winning automatic. This is one of the most underrated psychological patterns. Most people try to succeed through discipline and motivation. They white-knuckle their way through temptation and distraction. Eventually, their willpower depletes and they fail. Winners understand that willpower is a limited resource, so they stop spending it. Instead, they design environments where the right actions are easy and the wrong actions are hard. Here is how this works practically. Want to eat healthy? Remove all unhealthy food from your house. Do not rely on willpower to resist it. Eliminate the need for willpower entirely. Want to be productive? Design a workspace with 0 distraction. Do not fight the temptation to check your phone. Remove the phone from the room. Winners control inputs because they know the outputs follow automatically. But here is where this gets powerful for wealth. Your environment includes the people around you, the content you consume, the conversations you have, the standards you are exposed to. If your environment is full of people who think small, you will think small no matter how hard you try to think big. If your environment normalizes mediocrity, you will be pulled toward mediocrity no matter how much you want excellence. Winners ruthlessly curate their environment. They remove negative influences without apology. They add positive influences deliberately. They understand that environment shapes psychology more than willpower ever could. What in your environment is making winning harder than it needs to be? Pattern 6. Response ownership. Winners respond to the same events completely differently than everyone else. Most people are reactive. Something happens and they respond automatically based on their programming. Bad event triggers bad response. Obstacle triggers frustration. Failure triggers despair. They are puppets being controlled by their circumstances. Winners insert a gap between stimulus and response. In that gap, they choose how to respond. They own their response regardless of what triggered it. Here is why this matters. You cannot control what happens to you. You can only control how you respond to what happens to you. That response determines everything that follows. Same event can create two completely opposite outcomes depending on response. Job loss can create despair or opportunity. Market crash can create panic or buying opportunity. Rejection can create defeat or redirection. The event does not determine the outcome. The response determines the outcome. But here is what separates winners from everyone else. They take complete ownership of their responses. They do not blame circumstances for their reactions. They do not justify poor responses based on difficult triggers. They hold themselves accountable for how they show up regardless of what life throws at them. This is radical responsibility. It is uncomfortable. It removes all excuses and it creates all power. What responses have you been blaming on circumstances instead of owning? Pattern 7. Future self partnership. Winners make decisions in partnership with their future self. This sounds abstract. It is deeply practical. Most people make decisions based on present comfort. What feels good now, what is easy now, what avoids discomfort now. They sacrifice their future self to serve their present self. Winners flip this completely. They make decisions that serve their future self even when those decisions are uncomfortable for their present self. They treat their future self as a real person who will inherit the consequences of today's choices. And here is how this changes decision-making. Present-focused decision. Skip the workout because I am tired today. Future-focused decision. Do the workout because my future self deserves the health I am building. Present-focused decision. Spend the money because I want it now. Future-focused decision. Invest the money because my future self deserves the wealth I am building. Present-focused decision. Avoid the hard conversation because it is uncomfortable. Future-focused decision. Have the conversation because my future self deserves the relationship I am building. But here is the psychology underneath. When you partner with your future self, you tap into motivation that present focus cannot access. You are not just doing hard things for abstract reasons. You are doing them for someone you care about, someone who will benefit from your sacrifice, someone who will thank you for the discipline you showed today. Your future self is counting on you. Are you going to let them down? Knowing these patterns is step 1. Installing them is what creates winners. Here is how installation actually works. Pick one pattern, just one. Practice it consciously for 30 days. Every decision, every situation, every moment becomes an opportunity to apply the pattern. After 30 days, the pattern starts becoming automatic. Then add another pattern, 30 more days, then another. Within a year, you will have completely replaced your psychological operating system. You will think like a winner, decide like a winner, act like a winner, and inevitably win like a winner. This is not instant transformation. It is deliberate installation, pattern by pattern, day by day, until the person who loses becomes the person who wins. The only question is whether you will do the installation or just watch this video and change nothing. 7 patterns separate winners from everyone else. Identity first processing. Become before you achieve. Selective blindness. Train attention toward opportunity. Loss tolerance. Embrace failure as the price of victory. Commitment over interest. Decide once and eliminate all future hesitation. Environment architecture. Design surroundings that make winning automatic. Response ownership. Control your reactions regardless of triggers. Future self-partnership. Make decisions that serve who you are becoming. These patterns are not genetic. They are not reserved for the gifted. They are software that anyone can install through deliberate practice. The psychology of winning is available to you right now. The only thing standing between you and victory is installation. Your move.